Hey, what's up? This is Adam with Bro We Got This, and today I'm going to talk about the Elder Scrolls Online and if it's worth playing in 2020 for new players and for maybe veteran players that are coming back from a break or pre-2016, which I'll talk about later in the video. I want to say this first and foremost, ESO is a game that you do not have to be top tier to enjoy. This is one of the most amazing things about it, in my opinion. I will explain all of that in detail later, but to start out, you may be wondering or trying to search for an MMO in 2020. You may be a player from WoW that is tired of it, or various other MMOs too, like Black Desert, Division 2, Destiny, Final Fantasy 14. These are all some of them, just to name a few. The purpose of this video is to show you why I believe ESO is 150% worth it to play and invest in 2020. Now, I want to obviously explain myself and break down the many aspects of this game and basically how I'm grading them. MMOs are something that a lot of people are tending not to play as much anymore, and that's because of recent gaming trends such as Battle Royale and free-to-play games. Also, MMOs take a lot more time investment and a longer attention span. I believe that the average person now just doesn't have a long attention span, but I believe that there's a lot of value in MMOs if you find the right one for you. I think companies are trying to make MMOs more friendly to the average person as well without sacrificing its hardcore side for those hardcore players. So I believe that ESO is one of those games and the best MMO to invest in 2020. Before I get into the categories, I want to remind you I stream every Monday, Tuesday, and Thursday on twitch.tv/BroadwayGotThis. If you ever want to stop in and ask me questions, link will be in the description. And if you ever want to be a part of the community, the Brafia Discord, the link will be in the description. Everyone is welcome, and we would love to have you there. But now, here are the categories I'm going to talk about, and this is how I'm going to break down my analysis, and there will be timestamps, of course, so if you want to skip to specific parts, do that, because this video is probably going to be pretty lengthy. So I'm going to talk about the pricing and platforms, the subscription model, the story and questing, skills and variety within the game, things to do, as well as antiquities, which is a new thing that's coming out, PvP, PvE, in-game, leveling, combat systems, crafting, the cosmetics and microtransactions in the game, housing in the game, the art, the performance of the game, and the community/events of the game. So the grades I'm going to give them are out of 5, with 5 being the highest and 1 being the lowest. 5 to me means very user-friendly, cost-efficient, doesn't need a lot of reworking. 1 means needs a total rework, not economically friendly, and not user-friendly. So to start out, we are going to talk about the pricing structure and the platforms on which you can play ESO. The awesome thing about this MMO is you can play this on PS4, Xbox One, and PC, and Mac. And I want to note the Mac part. Not a lot of games have a port for Mac. So I think this is pretty awesome, and it allows Apple users to play. The thing to note is all releases for expansions and DLC get released on PC, Mac about 2 to 3 weeks earlier before consoles, and PC and Mac get public test servers for testing upcoming patches, and there are add-ons for PC and Mac which help a ton. Now let's look at the pricing structure of ESO. There's a lot of confusion right now because of the upcoming Greymoor chapter. People have been purchasing certain editions and not getting all the chapters with it, or they're purchasing the wrong ones. Right now there are 4 editions you can purchase on the Elder Scrolls Online site. You can purchase the ESO Standard Edition, the Greymoor Standard Edition, the Greymoor Physical Collector's Edition, and the Greymoor Digital Collector's Edition. If you buy the ESO Standard Edition, it is $12, and you get the base game and the Morrowind chapter. If you get the Greymoor Standard Edition, you get the base game and all of the chapters. So that's Morrowind, Somerset, Elsewhere, and Greymoor for $60, so the price of a new game. And all those expansions are at least $25 to $30 a piece, so already that's an amazing deal in my opinion. The Greymoor Digital Collector's Edition includes everything I just said, plus other bonus cosmetic items and amount, and that price is $80. The physical Greymoor Collector's Edition is just Greymoor and the bonus items and physical bonus collectibles like a Vampire Scion statue, steelbook, map, and coins. Do note that this edition only comes with Greymoor and not the base game. So this edition is mainly for people that probably have the base game and all the other expansions, because you will pay $130 for this and you just get Greymoor, so keep that in mind. So for my grades on the pricing and platforms aspect, I would give them both 5s. For platforms, it is on every platform basically, and even Mac, which makes it very easy to pick up. For pricing, it is a 5 because you can pay $60 for 4 expansions and the base game, or you can pay $12 for the base game and an expansion. You will see this throughout the video, how much content is in just the base game, and you'll see that $60 is very worth it for your money. Talking about the pricing transitions into our next topic, which is the subscription model in ESO. Back before 2016, ESO didn't have its subscription, and honestly, this is when the game was in its worst state. This was pre-One Tamriel update, which unified the game in so many ways. It's kind of insane. People will ask, is this a pay-to-win model? No, it is not. The ESO subscription is not something you need to be able to play the game. It doesn't allow you to get better gear. It doesn't allow you to perform better in dungeons or raids. What ESO Plus allows you is the quality of life updates and some convenience updates. I'm not going to go into everything with ESO Plus. If you want to check out my ESO Plus guide, it'll be in the description below, but I'll go over some of the major things. The biggest thing with this is that it gives you the craft bag. This is by far the biggest quality of life. It is an unlimited inventory that stores stackable crafting material, which you will get a ton of. This doesn't fill your inventory up, and it makes it to where you don't have to bank or deconstruct as much as often. Some people can't play without this because it's so nice, but plenty of people do. They make characters that just hold items for them, or they eventually upgrade their inventories and bank to where it's not a big problem, but it will make your life a lot easier. Another big thing is while you have ESO Plus active, you will have access to all the DLC content for free. So DLC content is not expansions. These are smaller updates that if you don't have ESO Plus, you have to buy individually. There are 13 DLCs out right now and about to be 14 when Storm comes out next week. And another 2 DLCs this year on top of that. So those DLCs total 22,000 crowns roughly. So you would need to spend $220 roughly to own these outright. With ESO Plus, you will get those included in your subscription, so no need to purchase them again. The other big thing is that it'll get you your crowns back every month if you have ESO Plus. ZeniMax gives you 1,650 crowns a month, so that's the equivalent of your subscription. You can use those however you like, and that's big in my opinion. Other bonuses you get are double bank space, housing limits, and small bonus to XP gained and gold gained, and a few other things. But the 3 reasons I mentioned first are, in my opinion, the reason why I think the subscription model is a solid one in ESO. The quality of life you get from that is so worth it, but basically the sub isn't a required purchase to play PvP in-game, and it doesn't just give you the best armor in the game either. It's a cosmetic or quality of life additions that you will gain from this. So saying that, I will say that it gets a 5 out of 5 because I think they really have the sub right where it needs to be. It's very worth it to the point that if you get it, you don't feel like you're throwing away money, but it's not pay to win, so it allows people to still play the game without the sub. Now, if you like to get told a good story, you are in the right place. The story lore content in this game is great, as well as the questing, which I am pairing with this section. Obviously, a lot of people are familiar with the Elder Scrolls series as a whole. I'm talking about the RPGs and all. You have Skyrim, Oblivion, Morrowind. These games have some great lore and rich story content. The world of Tamriel is so vast and so unique that it paves a way for the writers of this game to never run out of content. So for the player, I think this bodes well. You will always have great content when it comes to story. I believe that the lore of the Elder Scrolls Online is about 1,000 years before the events of the Skyrim game. You have familiar locations and familiar callouts to these games. The actual main story in this game is interesting to me, but I feel as if every MMO's main story isn't really challenging per se, like a single-player base game like God of War or something. So if you're looking for challenges in the story, this story isn't really going to be where it's at, as most MMOs leave that for the end game. Now let's go into the questing. Questing in this game is the best questing in any MMO in my opinion. Here's the reason. Fetch quests aren't a problem. Holy crap, if I told you how frustrated I got with WoW and Black Desert's fetch quests, it drove me insane. I hate fetch quests. I don't mind them if they are few and far between, but when it's like every single quest, it's kill this, kill that, I can't do that. I just can't. Now, I know WoW has more interesting quests later on in levels past vanilla, but the fact that a good bit of the first levels don't is agonizing. ESO's questing is just so rich and complex. Literally, we have 16 base zones, with each of the zones having specific quest lines that feed into the other zones of the region. In each of the zones, we have at least 15 or more side quests in the towns and overland areas that have their separate quest lines. Each dungeon and trial has its own quest lines that progress you through each version. There are Mages Guild, Fighters Guild, Psijic Order, Dark Brotherhood, and Thieves Guild separate quest lines. Thieves Guild and Psijic Order and Dark Brotherhood are DLC or expansion, by the way. You have PvP quest lines that you can complete. You have daily quests for crafting to obtain motifs, writ vouchers, and things for your house. You have daily quests in all DLC or expansion zones. You have daily Undaunted quests, and it goes on and on. There are tons of quests and different types of quests in this game. Now you have 11 DLC or expansion zones that lead to even more quests, and you could say that these quest lines are even more fleshed out than the base game quests. And on top of all that, you have the main quest of the game. Questing rewards you with titles, achievements, and dies as well. So for my grades for these two things, story and questing both get a 5 because, again, they hit it right in the sweet spot. Quests are complex and simple but have a nice feel to them and make you feel invested and want to make you keep questing. Plus, the variety is insane. The story is self-explanatory. It is a 5. The Elder Scrolls lore and world is so vast and has so many cool aspects to it. It will always be refreshing and new and interesting in my opinion. Now, let's get into the skills and the variety that they bring in the game. This game's skill line system is complex but very versatile. To start out, you have 4 playable base game classes, the Nightblade, Templar, Dragonite, and Sorcerer. Then you have 2 expansion classes, with Warden and Necromancer. Each class has 3 different skill lines with an ultimate and 5 skills. They all have 5 passives, and most of the skill lines are catered to specific roles like healing, tanking, and DPS. Also, if you haven't checked out my classes video, the link will be in the description. You are allowed to have 2 skill bars once you hit level 15. You can have 5 skills on each of them and 1 ultimate on each. There are 9 races in the game with their own racial passives. There are light, medium, and heavy armor skill lines. There are skill lines for Mages Guild, Sigigor, Undaunted, which is a dungeon skill line, Fighters Guild, and Thieves Guild, Dark Brotherhood. There are PvP skill lines. There are vampire skill lines, and this is getting a whole rework with the Greymoor chapter coming out this year. There is a werewolf skill line. There are overworld skill lines such as Legerdemain and Soul Magic. And the big one are weapon skill lines. There are 6 weapon skill lines in the game: dual wield, two-handed, one-handed shield, bow, restoration staff, and destruction staff. These all have their own 5 skills and ultimates and passives. Then after that, you have crafting skill lines and professions, which we will get into a little later. But right here, you can see that there are so many skills and skill lines in the game. The thing about ESO that's so cool is that you can have a mix and match of builds so much because you have designated weapon skill lines. Now, I'm not saying every build will be meta, but if you want to make a healer in a class that's typically not a healer, you can. All you have to do is put a lot of the healing staff skills on your bar, and you have a healing class ready to go. The fact that there are 9 classes make it very customizable with passives and how you want your character to look. The variety of guild skill lines and passives allow you to keep things fresh, and the ability to only have 10 total skills active and 2 ultimates make you choose wisely for your build, which means you can be more creative and feel less overwhelmed. I do believe that some MMOs that give you more skills than that, like Black Desert, can get very confusing and overwhelming. Now, as far as my grade for this, I would give it a 4 out of 5. The reason not a 5 out of 5 is because I feel like there could be more classes. The game has been going for about 6 years, so I would like to see that going forward more. But we have gotten like 2 new classes in the last like 3-ish years, 4-ish years. So I think they are creating more, and hopefully they are creating more. But besides this, I think they do a good job of nerfing or buffing skills, and there's so many. It's just great to be able to have multiple options to choose from. Next is the things you can actually do in the game. I'm going to dive into all these specifically, but I want to talk about how this game caters to every type of player. Again, you have questing, you have PvP content, you have PvE content, and a lot of in-game. Got crafting, role-playing guilds. You have trading guilds for people that want to buy and sell. You have achievements to go after skins, titles, and personalities. You have housing in the game. You have cosmetics. You have new things coming with Greymoor that are going to be called antiquities, or archaeology as we like to call it. This is going to be a casual thing that anyone can do that will reward them with mounts, housing items, cosmetics, lore, and most importantly, mythic items, which are like exotics in Destiny. You will only be able to wear one at a time, but they will have insane effects, but also effects for non-combat things too. This is a great addition coming this year, and it's going to be a huge thing to the game because it's going to alter builds and give players yet another thing to do. My grade for these things to do in-game is definitely a 5 because there are so many things in the game to do on just one character. If you quested all your time throughout the game, you still have like 7 to 10 other things you can still do that will draw even more hours out of you. Plus, they keep adding more. Something that would be cool, though, is if they added like an owning of land system in the game. I think that would be really neat. So, ZeniMax, if you want to add that, that would be really cool. Next, let's go into this individually. The PvP content in this game is something that I don't do a ton of, but I will say it can be enjoyable with large groups. There's a massive PvP area within Cyrodiil to explore. Sieging is very fun, and Battlegrounds is a quick match-based system of 4v4v4. This is also really refreshing, too, to get away from Cyrodiil. I will say that leveling PvP is a pain, though, and if you don't have a group in Cyrodiil, it is really just a buzzkill trekking around the land in Cyrodiil, and it can be taxing, too, and really make you want to rage quit. I think they do a decent job of balancing classes, but it's PvP, so someone is always going to be mad and not happy with the meta, so take that with a grain of salt. There are vendors that show up on the weekends that you can use your alliance points you earn through PvP, and you can buy armor sets and gold jewelry with some of these armor sets enjoy being really, really good. So that's nice that you can use your alliance points for that. If you quit your job and play 24/7, you can try to become Emperor and gain a sick die and armor costume and skill line, but it is so hard to do that, so it's basically something I never mentioned. But if I had to give a grade for this, I would give PvP a 3, mainly because I think they could do a better job with the leveling aspect of it. Also, I think they could make traveling around the zones easier and fixing the non-group aspect of it to where you can have a more enjoyable experience. This transitions to the PvE and endgame. PvE is my favorite thing to do in the game along with fashion. PvE content is abundant because basically everything in the game that isn't PvP is PvE. Again, you have 16 dungeons in the base game. Most of these have 2 versions that have separate bosses and skill lines, so an additional 8 more dungeons that you have there. You have 12 DLC dungeons in the game that all have styles that you can earn, skins, personalities, and titles. You have 12-man trials, and there's over 8 of those at least in the game that you can earn skins, titles, and style motifs in these. Every zone has 6 world bosses, except some of the DLC zones, they have 2 or so for most parts. That is a total of over 135 world bosses in the game. These are hard group bosses that need usually a team of 4 to beat. You have 6 delves in every zone except DLC zones. It is a little less as well, just at like the world boss situation. These have a mini boss in them, and a quest, and a sky shard. You have 3 dolmens in each base zone, which are farmable and are public events. You have a public dungeon in all base zones and 2 in expansions, most of them. These have around 6 bosses and a group boss in them, plus a quest and memento that you can earn that's like a little trinket or a little emote that you can use. You have dragons and elsewhere, which are public events. We will have Heraldstorm public events with Greymore. This is just the non-questing things that you have. A lot of this stuff is the end game. Each of these dungeons and trials have veteran mode, which is harder. They all have a veteran hard mode challenge in each of them. These dungeons have daily quests called pledges that will allow you to get keys and use those for chests that give you an in-game 2-piece set. Every zone has a set that drops from world bosses, delve bosses, public dungeons, and dolmens. Trials have in-game gear as well, specific to each trial. Not to mention, the in-game goes on even more to cosmetics. A lot of people grind for things to put in their house, motifs, or styles for transmogs. The list goes on and on. The last thing is the champion point system. This is the in-game leveling system in place. Once you hit 50, which is the leveling cap, you will go into CP. This is like the Paragon system in Diablo, if you're familiar. You will earn a point into the green side, then the blue side, then the red side for each level you earn. You then put these points into passives and abilities that basically make you stronger. The soft cap is 810 CP. And the amazing thing about this is CP is shared between characters. So if you are 650 CP on your main account, then the next character you get to 50, they will automatically go to 650 CP. My grade for this is 5 because there is literally so much in-game and PvE content in this game, and it will be hard to finish it all because you can make new characters and do it with them. Next is leveling. I just talked a little bit about the CP for in-game, but leveling 1 to 50 due to the 1 Tamriel update in 2016 made this game amazing. Before that, a lot of people quit. And if you were watching this, you may have quit before that. Before 2016, the zones weren't scaled. So if you had a quest in one zone at level 5, when we went back to do it, it was outdated and gave barely any experience. What this did is it made a lot of zones empty very quickly. Also, you couldn't have friends of lower or higher levels with you because it wasn't scaled. Now it's scaled so any person can level with you. And they did away with the alliance barriers, so if you pick a character in Aldemary Dominion, you can go to Daggerfall or Ebonheart, and you can go to any zone basically you want. It is amazing. Leveling to 50 takes an average about 15 to 20 hours. If you want to check out my leveling guide, I'll link it in the description as well. But something to note about leveling in this game is that whatever skills are on your active skill bar at the time, when you turn in a quest or kill something or whatever, those skills and weapons will be the one leveled up. So the skills on your back bar will not be leveled. It is not leveled up by how many times you use something. That's a common misconception. But my grade for leveling is a 5 again. With the update in 2016, it's so nice that you can level with any of your friends and that there are multiple ways to level. This plus a user-friendly tooltip leveling thing in-game that gives you tips and items as you level makes the experience great for leveling. Now let's get into the combat portion of ESO. You can fight in first person or third person with a scaling camera. I do not recommend playing in first person. This is not like Skyrim where the combat is very linear. You need to know what is going on behind you and around you. There are AoEs and various other things to look at. Plus, you get to see yourself, which again, fashion is a big thing in this game. The combat animations, I think, are really unique and cool. I feel as if they keep getting better and better with more releases. Again, you only have 10 skills that you can use and 2 ultimates on 2 different bars. There's a taunting mechanic for tanks, and the normal MMO jargon when it comes to combat, there's AoEs, crowd control, single target, and taunting, like I said. I would say that combat feels good where it's at. I don't feel like there are any glaring problems, so I'd give it a grade of 5 because I really don't see any reason why they should change the combat. Crafting is next. I love the crafting in ESO. It's one of my favorite things to do. There are 7 professions, one of which is tied to Somerset expansion, which is jewelry crafting. There are 6 other professions in the game. The professions are blacksmithing, clothing, woodworking, provisioning, or cooking. That's what it's called, provisioning, but it's cooking. Alchemy, enchanting, and jewelry crafting. Crafting can be very confusing for new players, and it's something that you'll need some guidance on. If you leave with anything, make sure you always research your traits. You'll thank me later. But each of these professions are actually viable in the end game for ESO. Some MMOs, the crafting is basically non-existent in the game, but ZeniMax does a great job of making these relevant even after you're deep in the end game. A lot of the end game starter sets are crafted and definitely viable. With crafting, you can make important buff foods, potions, and poisons that are used in trials. With crafting, you can find valuable resources to sell for lots of gold in the game. With crafting, you will always need to or have someone upgrade or improve armor that you get from trials or dungeons, and those pieces are bound, so you will actually have to improve the quality of those items yourself. Crafting is an in-game thing as well, as when you do your daily crafting quests, you can obtain master crafting quests or writs that will allow you to obtain vouchers that you can spend on cosmetics for your house or for yourself in general. You can casually harvest materials and get materials from deconstructing, and is a great way to make money, especially if you do your writs on multiple characters. I would give crafting a 4 out of 5, and the only reason it's not a 5 is I think ZeniMax could make or clear up some of the confusion with how the whole system works. Some people don't understand all the different tabs or resins or materials that they are even obtaining, so I think there could be something done about that. And again, if you want, I have a beginner crafting guide that talks a lot about this in depth, and it'll be in the description. So let's talk about cosmetics and the infamous microtransactions that everyone hates in games. The first thing I want to mention is here that there is a daily login reward that usually get better and better as the more days you log in throughout the month. So that's something neat and something to keep in mind. I've already kind of went into a little bit how many cosmetics are in this game, and there are a ton. You have dyes that you can achieve from doing achievements. You have titles and skins you get from doing quests, and from doing challenging things in dungeons and trials. You have personalities, which are basically the way you stand or your bystanding demeanor in the game. These are all earned through challenges or microtransactions. You have motifs, which are a one-time consumable piece that allows you to learn how to make certain styles in the game and certain specific styles. So like you'll have like a shoulder style of Malakath, and that lets you make the shoulder style Malakath for your shoulder slot. And with that, there are tons of styles in this game, and these are able to be farmed through daily quests on multiple characters, and they are obtained through doing challenges in dungeons like DLC and trials as well. You can also buy these from players or from the in-game crown store. Not all motifs are sold in the crown store. In fact, most of them aren't sold there. They rotate out and all. And so with all these cosmetics, you can't buy a ton of skins in the crown store as well. You don't really buy titles as well. The personalities are about half and half, and again, most motifs aren't in the crown store. But then we get to mounts, and mounts are a different story. Mounts help you get places quicker and faster in the game. There are some problems with mounts in this game, in my opinion. Mounts look amazing, first off. The problem with mounts are most of them aren't earnable, though. You have to buy them with crowns or real money. However, I will say that ZeniMax has started to implement more ways to earn mounts in the game through trial challenges. This year, with Antiquities, you will also be able to earn some through that. And you earn them through events now that they run throughout the game that get you certain variants. But basically, every other mount has to be bought or is bundled with a chapter in the game. This is something I think the ESO really needs to improve on. I feel like there needs to be more earnable mounts in the game. But I would say, as microtransactions go, there are a good bit of microtransactions in this game. However, like I said, none of them make you compete at a higher level or top tier. Basically, all the microtransactions in the crown store are cosmetic items, i.e. mounts, skins, motifs, costumes, some dyes. Then you have utility things like base XP scrolls, crafting items, some buff foods. You have some assistants, which are like merchants that you can sell stuff to, or a banker that you can bank stuff with and they can follow you around. The other big thing with microtransactions are there are crown crates, which are loot crates that give you various items. Everyone hates loot crates, basically, but you don't have to buy them. A lot of really cool mounts are in these, but they are rare, obviously. And the items in the crates you can break down. You can break them down for crown gems, which let you buy specific crown crate items with them. This is at least nice. They give something back in return, but it's not a ton, and you have to save for a while. So with saying all this, I believe that the cosmetic grade is a 4 out of 5, with all the cosmetics looking amazing, and a lot of them are earnable with the exception of mounts. But the microtransaction grade gets a 2.5 because there are a lot of microtransaction opportunities. The prices for some of these items are very costly, and the fact that you really can only get mounts from buying them with real money is disappointing and costly. I think ZeniMax could rework this system in many ways, but that is just my 2 cents. This leads into housing next. Housing is another cosmetic thing that is really cool. The awesome thing about houses are you can buy these with golden crowns, so you don't have to spend money on these. This is something that mounts could potentially be reworked to, but there are so many houses of all different shapes and sizes, and they have so many cool styles. You can furnish them with great customization, and you can host parties, put crafting tables in them, target dummies, and so many other things. You can have as many houses as you want, and all your houses are shared between characters. A lot of the cosmetics are earned and put in your house, which is nice. So housing's grade gets a 5 because it's earnable through the game, very vast, and it looks good. Also, I have a housing beginner guide in the description as well that you can check out. Now, art is the next thing. I don't have to say much about this because it's apparent. The art in this game is beautiful, and it's also unique, and each zone feels different. And you can feel like you're part of the zone right when you step into it. The art direction and the way things look in this game, animations, items, transmogs, cosmetics, everything looks outstanding. So it gets a 5 from me. Good job, ZeniMax. Performance. This is a doozy. This is another thing ESO is actually struggling with, but it's something they are trying to work very hard on to change this year. They actually have a roadmap of all the performance changes they are making this year on their website. I'll put an article in the description for you that they outline all of this for you all. The first one is actually coming this Monday, where we are all going to have to reinstall the launcher in game. This is going to fix load times and make your game perform a lot better. This is something that has been a problem for some players, and devs know it. Load times, depending on daytime, sometimes are very long. Judging queues are long, but they have been reworking these. But there are plenty of guides out there that actually show you how to make it perform better, so go check those out. But I would grade performance at 3 because it definitely needs a rework, but I'm not grading lower because they are actively fixing this, and most of the times for me, at least, I don't have too many problems, but it is a known thing. And lastly is the community and events. I would say ESO's community is probably the least toxic community in gaming I have been a part of. Now, of course, you're going to get those bad eggs, and someone is always going to be mad about something, but I would say in general, most of the community is very welcoming to new players. Everyone knows that the game is hard to understand at first, so people really go out of their way to help you. I really love this community a lot, and again, if you want to be a part of my community Discord, the link is in the description. We would love to have you there and in my Necro Daddies guild. And so with events, the devs run basically a new event every month. That's what it feels like. They keep it fresh and fun with that, and I really appreciate the flow of content that they bring to the game. So these categories get a 5 because content flow is nice, the community is very helpful and welcoming, and you will make some great friends here in ESO. Okay, so if you've made it this far, then thank you for sticking around. But here are my closing thoughts. I broke down a lot in this game, and I told you at the beginning I thought it was worth playing ESO in 2020. This is a game that has so much content, great cosmetics, great endgame, and that endgame will keep you busy for ages. It has quests that are actually good and aren't mundane and boring, and it has a pretty fair pricing and subscription structure that is worth it and doesn't make the game pay to win. It can get better at its microtransactions by bringing the price down and not putting some cosmetics behind paywalls. Its performance in PvP can also be reworked some. But this is why now is the perfect time to get into ESO. ZeniMax is listening to the community and trying to fix performance issues along with other things. Greymore is releasing in May, which is bringing the fan favorite Skyrim zone to the game. They are implementing mythic items. This is exotics, like I said, with antiquities, which is the biggest non-combat release since housing. They are totally revamping the vampire skill line. That's a joke. They really are, but it's just revamping and vampire skill line, you get it. And basically, each year they come out with a new chapter, which is an expansion, and that has 3 DLCs tied to it. That's awesome. ESO's community is friendly and welcoming, and the player base is growing. With constant content releases and so much to do, you really will find it difficult to do everything in the game. But it has a nice balance to where, like I said at the beginning, you don't have to play 10 hours a day or be top tier to enjoy this game. ESO gives every type of player some worthwhile and fun things to do. That's why it's worth playing in 2020, and I recommend it to any new person that wants to give it a shot. I'll be making a new player beginner guide that's updated hopefully by next week. Otherwise, I don't want to take any more of your time, guys, but remember, all the links to the videos, my Discord, my Twitch are all in the description. And if you like this or like the content, hit the like button, subscribe, ring the bell for notifications. But until next time, remember to have faith, be great, and I'll see you guys later. Bye.